Welcome in, YouTube, to a stunning episode of SOMA with a therapist. Welcome to part 4. I appreciate that you made it all the way through the first 3 parts. I hope you enjoyed them immensely. I know that we're starting on an interesting foot here with part 4. Please leave a like, leave a comment, tell people about the playthrough. Follow the links down in the description, all that fun stuff. I really have been surprised by the amount of support that you all have shown for this playthrough. It's really awesome to see so many of you enjoying this playthrough with me. So I know it's an older game. Thanks for giving me a chance to play it for you and with you. I've enjoyed the conversations, and we're going to have more of one here. If you're wondering if I have spent any time thinking about this decision since the last episode, the answer is actually not really. I planned to open this discussion back up here at the start of the stream, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so to recap, we have to pull the cortex out of a robot. These are the only 2 robots, as far as I know, that are available to us in this area. Now, we learned by looking at the computer screen back in that building that each of these robots has intelligence. Now, we could reasonably assume that a person's consciousness was downloaded into this robot just by virtue of the way that it talks to itself and by the way that that computer discussed the intelligence. It's a complex intelligence.
Did you move the outer shields? No, the thin one, the yielder. Yeah, I know it's not technically a shield. Never mind, I found it.
Okay. I don't really know who he's talking to. Seems like that'd be a pretty miserable existence. Now, this guy can only communicate
Why would you want to go
via
to
beeps.
Theta? Why be a small fish in a big pond, you know?
But it does have an intelligence chip in it. So my sense is that this robot does have some degree of consciousness, as however you want to define the consciousness here. This robot has made an effort to help us. It follows us around. It uses its flashlight. It got us out of the submarine. It followed us, and it's opened the doors that we've wanted to get into. So it has some ability to anticipate the needs of a person, which tells me that there is some empathy available to it. So we talked a little bit about how objectification is going to be something that's going to play a role here. I have more of a personal relationship with this robot than I do this one. Because this one cannot use language, and I can't necessarily understand it, it does dehumanize it a bit. Whereas this one, by virtue of being able to actually articulate itself in a way that I understand, is inherently going to give me a bit of empathy for it and is going to draw me in. Here's the issue that I am really trying to fight my way through. If this robot has the ability to observe, feel, and think a situation, it is going to watch me hit this robot. This robot's going to watch me hit this one too, as far as I can tell. And I don't know what kind of effect that's going to have on these robots. Because if these robots believe that they're humans in the way that Carl did, this could actually be traumatic.
I love that Delta is such a tight operation.
So
I get to try everything here.
this robot, I have no idea what degree of awareness it has for this one. It doesn't seem to be interested in engaging with me. I haven't had any vocal prompts with it. It doesn't really...
Try the other one. It's not working.
It doesn't really engage with me in the same way that this other guy does. And I don't foresee an option to be able to avoid getting a cortex out of one of them. So my sense is that in order for me to move forward, I'm going to have to do this. But I don't know the nature of these. What I do know is that this one has absolutely made an effort to help me. I would hope that it understands that this is a decision that I have to make, and I would hope that this robot doesn't freak out, or that robot doesn't freak out. Like, I'm worried that if I hit this one's gonna freak out at me. I'm worried that if I hit this one's gonna freak out.
Try the other one. It's not working.
So the reality is either decision is gonna suck.
Looks okay, right? Yeah.
But, and you know, we always talk about, is there a choice here? There is a choice. I could choose not to hit either of them.
Careful, Brand.
And
Nice
if I
and
do
easy.
that, I either have to walk, or I'm stuck down here. And ostensibly, I could be stuck down here forever. So now my own needs and agenda start to have an effect on the future of these robots. There's real gravity to this situation. It's really tough. It would be awesome if one of these robots would volunteer itself. Right? Like, if that robot over there is miserable and it's caught in this terrible consciousness loop, it would be really great if it could indicate to some extent, like, hey, take me out, man. But it hasn't. This one doesn't have the ability to communicate with me or say that. The other problem here is that if I destroy one of these robots, it leaves the other one alone. What I love about the questions that this game presents to us is that when is it appropriate for us to play God? What is the limit on another entity's conscientiousness where me exerting force on it for my own agenda becomes a real problem? And that's I think a really powerful question that doesn't have like a finite answer, because different people are going to give you different answers. Based on the nature of my relationship to this robot and the fact that it seems to have shown a degree of like empathy and desire to help, I'm going to spare it, and I'm going to hope that this thing's not sitting here praying that I kill it. Because again, this could be a very miserable experience for all of them, or maybe it's not.
Looks okay, right?
Oh, come on.
It's not aware of what's happening? Where did the other robot go?
I hope this works.
I was just curious where it went. Okay, so that other robot watched that happen. Hey, bud. We cool? Ooh. If I'm that robot, I'm probably scared of me too. But I think this confirms my suspicion that there's a degree of conscientiousness within that robot. Like the fact that it could see me attack that it saw me attack that robot and stun it that way, and then it's now apprehensive. I could understand that because I could, as far as it knows, I could come up to it and stun it too. Also, the fact that it's facing me. Again, if you're trying to survive a situation where there's a threat, one of the worst things that can happen is for you to turn your back to that threat, because then you can't see it, particularly if you are visually, like if that's your main driving sensory input from the environment, which I would argue that is for this. It's facing me. So this thing was comfortably circling around. But now it's like, no. I'm not letting you get behind me, which again is a conscious response that you would make. So I think there is somebody in there that just can't communicate with me in any kind of meaningful way. It can only beat me, which is sad in and of itself. But understandably, it doesn't trust me. And I think that's okay. Like if you're Simon, oh shit. If you're Simon here, you can't expect that robot's going to fully understand the context for the decision that you just made, and you're not owed. I'm not owed this robot giving me the benefit of the doubt. It helped me. I'm grateful for that. If I'm Simon, I'm probably trying to communicate with it and say, hey, bud, I realized that was scary. Even if I don't know whether it can understand me. Hey, man, I know that was scary. I'm not going to hurt you. I appreciate the help that you gave me. I'm sorry that I had to do that. I do like that Simon dropped the gun. Yeah, he ain't following me anymore. And now he's going to be down here lonely. What I hope doesn't happen for this robot. Oh, this is so, man. All right. I got to figure out how to take what is a very, 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 very complex conversation and try to make it digestible here in a YouTube video. Responsibility and accountability are they're very powerful concepts in a situation like this. My action here has a direct impact on both the robot that I attacked and on the little dude here that witnessed that attack. However, there are limits to the degree at which I am accountable for the way that the little robot decides to engage with future situations. If we assume that this moment was a bit of a trauma for this little robot, and I am essentially the instigator of that traumatic moment, there's going to be an association with me, and there is going to be an effect on this robot in the way that there would be if the robot was a person. And I'm assuming to an extent that this robot is a person. That robot's going to internalize this moment, and there's going to be parts that he consciously internalizes, and there's going to be parts that get internalized on the back end. And it's going to inform the way that robot views future engagements if there will be any, with people like me or with anything that it appears to be sentient that shows up in this station. I am responsible for that impact. If that robot experiences fear, if that robot is triggered, if that robot has really adverse effects from experiencing and witnessing what it just witnessed, that's on me. And this is why I say it's really important for Simon, if he could talk to this robot, you would want to do that. And to try to, at the very least, get a chance to come to some understanding of what happened here and mitigate the intensity of the situation. However, I'm not owed that. If the robot is too scared of me to want to engage with me, that is absolutely its right, and Simon has to live with that. However, if that robot makes a decision in a subsequent moment about its engagement with other entities, let's say another sub crash lands in this area, the accountability of that decision that the robot makes is on the robot. It's not on me. So this gets into a really complicated conversation about trauma, which is that when you're triggered, when you have certain physiological effects, when there are aversions, and there's an increase in physiological intensity in certain situations, the stimulus of that is responsible for creating that. I'm responsible for that. That's on me. That's not the robot's fault that it processed it that way and that it essentially experienced it as a trauma. But, and this is the, when we talk about the other end of this, where if we're talking about the robot, this is the unfair proposition of trauma, is when you experience trauma and you have to deal with the effects of that trauma, the unfair part about it is that you ultimately then become the one responsible for determining what you're going to do in subsequent scenarios, given the fact that you've experienced trauma before. So it's essentially, how will you work with the fact that trauma was involved in your life? And it's a really difficult path to walk. Like, I do not want to understate, it is a really difficult path to walk, and it's what makes it unfair. But there you are, if you're that robot, accountable for decisions you make based off of that. If that robot, when another person like me emerges from that submarine, and let's say that robot attacks, tries to blind that person with its flashlight, or it attacks it with its little like Sinji gun thing, the robot is responsible for that action. Because the reality of that situation is that that robot is attacking something that is not in any way, shape, or form related to the event that I created. Its assessment of that being a dangerous situation may be the result of trauma, but the action that it chooses is a misplaced action because it's not actually in a situation where, like with me, I would understand if the robot attacked me because I have shown the robot a capacity for danger. But a whole other entity could show up that has not even remotely close to the same intentions. And if the robot attacks that person, the robot's responsible for that. That's not on me. And so Simon has to be able to make that determination. Most people don't. I wouldn't expect them to. But if Simon can make that determination, it makes it a little bit easier to navigate this situation because he can attend to the part that he's accountable for if the robot's willing. But also can keep in mind that any subsequent decisions, not feelings, decisions that that robot makes that are not directly involved with me are to an extent on the robot. It's very complicated, but these are important conversations to have because picking up the pieces and working with trauma means also taking accountability for the decisions you make that potentially perpetuate the trauma or mitigate its effects. And that's a long, long journey. So I feel terribly for this robot because it just witnessed me attack that robot and is potentially traumatized, and it doesn't have language to tell me whether it was. Maybe that robot was the bane of its existence, and it's happy that I killed it, and it's just being cautious. I don't know, because it doesn't have language. But man, it's all alone now. I'm going to hop on that Zeppelin, and this thing's going to float around at the bottom of the ocean with consciousness. That sucks. And I can't talk to it. But again, it's not my responsibility to chase after it and expect that it's going to be cool. It's very clearly distressed. Man. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry for the effect that that's going to have on you, man. I really hope this works, because if it doesn't work, that's going to really suck.
Thanks, Simon. Don't be mad, okay? We really needed that chip. We'd be stuck here.
Could you do it? Kill a robot like that?
I get attached to them too. I'm not a monster. But in this case, it had to be done.
He was talking. I mean, he was delusional, but he seemed sincere. Present.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's fine.
Was he really that different from us? It's just beginning to sink in. I mean, really sink in. I'm a robot.
Didn't we cover this already?
Guess I've known ever since I woke up at Upsilon. I just keep suppressing it. Like my brain doesn't want me to think about it. It's really getting hard not to think about it.
Yeah. Could you maybe hit that switch over there so we could get moving?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I wonder if that hit a vulnerability for her. Man. It's just so interesting though, right? Like, does anything change just because I'm me, but I'm in robot form? Right? Like, we all like to talk as if who we are is separate from the vessel we're in. But if I'm a robot now, that comes attached to it a whole lot of meaning. We have certain schema for that. So how does that impact your sense of who you are when you're now a hunk of metal versus a hunk of flesh? Does that actually matter? To some it might. To some it might not. To some they might say, you know, at least I have my brain. But then I ask you, would you still say that to yourself if you were in like a vegetative state? Would you still say that to yourself? Like, I mean, we get into really fascinating conversations too about how something like a really profound disability affects a person's sense of who they are. Like, we like to talk as if people are people no matter what they face. But we all have different physical limitations, and we have different physical vessels that we're in. We have different degrees of attractiveness. We have different degrees of ability. We have all of these things that absolutely play a role in how we interface with the environment. Right? Like, my interface with the environment throughout my entire life is as a white dude. Just a white Midwestern dude, which means that I have certain things that are available to me in most contexts that many people don't. That absolutely is going to affect my sense of self, including my self-worth, my esteem, my sense of confidence in the world. If I'm a black woman, maybe that changes. Maybe some of the environments that I've been in and operated within are different. If I'm a person who's maybe had one side of their body's limbs amputated and now have prosthetics, that changes the way that I interface with the environment. It changes the types of questions people ask. It changes the way that people look at you based on all of the things that they've learned about these different things and how they present and what they mean. So Simon having this bit of an existential crisis right now about the fact that he's a robot and what does that mean for him is so complicated. Because it's like, if he is who he is, regardless of the vessel, does the vessel matter? I don't know that you can separate the two. So now he's having to deal with a shift in who he is based on the vessel he occupies and the limitations, and in some ways the augments that he has, because he can just breathe underwater and walk underwater with no problem. That's kind of neat. Really fascinating stuff. And this is really hard for people to grasp because we generally want to know the answers, and we want to take a BuzzFeed quiz and be told that we're an onion of all the items in a supermarket and go, yep, that's it. It's not really how it works. What supermarket food are you? Tell me in the comments.
Thanks.
Bye, buddy. I'm sorry. Oh, man. Boy, it's awful dark. I don't love that. 230 miles or meters depth. We're going deeper.
You did really good back there, Simon. We got a slight delta detour, but we're back on track.
Yeah.
We should touch down on a cargo platform just outside Theta. Then we just head inside, grab the dunbat, and head down the abyss. 4,000 meters. That's a long way. We don't have to worry, though, because with the dunbat, the Ark could have been in the Mariana Trench. It'll hold for anything.
That's great.
And then we can start listening to other people when they talk, because that's how conversations work.
What? Oh, sorry. I just can't stop thinking about what we've become. It's clear that we're no longer human. But then how can I feel like Simon? How can I feel like anything at all? I mean, technically, I don't have any ears, no mouth. Christ, that's a weird thing to think about. I mean, I'm making sounds. I'm still saying things.
You sure are. Okay. Your new body most likely has senses similar to those you had as a human. And your mind, only knowing one way to perceive the world, superimposes that skill set on top of your new features.
So my mind is covering it up, pretending nothing's different.
If it didn't, you'd probably be incapable of interacting with the world at all. And the stress would either kill you or make you go insane.
So I've found a good balance between awareness and ignorance. Does that mean I shouldn't think about this stuff, or are my thoughts actually making me cool? Could I tip the balance by suddenly gaining some insight and then go insane?
I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, we have real things to deal with. Saving mankind, remember? Speaking of which, we're closing in on Theta. I'll eject the Omnitool. As always, don't forget to take me with you.
Kath, before you go, the artificial intelligence you mentioned in the escape vessel?
Uh-huh, yeah, the Warden unit, the WOW.
Is it the WOW's fault that we're like this? I mean, it seems like something an unreliable AI would do.
I suppose it set the ball in motion, but it's not directed with purpose. It's really complicated to explain how machines think, Simon. Concentrate on getting inside Theta, okay? See you soon.
Man, it's a conversation. I mean, this is where it becomes sometimes difficult for me to do like any kind of meaningful analysis, because in order for me to properly give any kind of credence to what we just heard, I would have to understand the way that that technology works. So I think that the best thing that I can offer here while we are dealing with what it is that Simon's going through is this. And I don't remember if I said this in this playthrough or if it was in a different playthrough. I think, oh, it was a different playthrough. I think it was Horizon. Your perceptions matter. And we at times get really wrapped up in how we should feel. Or we think that our emotional or just perceptual experience is supposed to be in line with some kind of objective reality. And then that brings into the whole question of, is it possible to know what objective reality is, or can we only get so close by diversifying the windows through which we view it? That's a conversation for a different day. But essentially, a lot of us hold ourselves to a standard of, and other people to a standard of being as close to an engagement with reality as possible. But reality is in a lot of ways subjective. There are common things that we might agree on. There is consensus reached on via language on what objects are and what their utility is, though that can certainly change based on context and based on environment. But when Simon is sitting here and he's saying, like, I don't have ears, but I can still hear. I don't have eyes, but I can still see. I don't have a mouth, but I can still talk. I still perceive the world around me, and I have some sort of signal that's being sent through either my circuitry or my biology that tells me that what I've experienced has elicited some kind of electromagnetic response. And I feel that. That's his reality. And so at that point, there again, it comes to a question of, does it matter if you have ears, if you can still hear? Does it matter that you have a visual field, but it's not being processed by your eyes? He decides that. But if he feels scared or dread or anxiety or whatever, it doesn't matter what he should feel. What matters right now is what he does feel. And he is kind of freaking out about the way that his existence is being perpetuated here. There are few things scarier than not knowing how you work or why things are happening the way that they are. Like, they're having unknowns as it relates to your own body and your own mind is often terrifying. So we're going to have some real, I think, existential conversations, obviously, here going forward on Simon's experience. Oh boy, that's a big facility. What do we got here?
Strasky, wake up Dr. Masters. We're bringing in anchors.
What's wrong?
What can I say? He's had a rough day.
Jesus Christ. He's all butchered by structure shrapnel. The valve sure did a number on him.
Brandon, flip the panic switch on the suit. I don't want to burn through the oxygen.
You're kidding, right? He's fucking hanging on by a thread. We need to move him.
Strasky, get the infirmary ready. We need to move fast.
Wait, where are Komorabi and the others?
This is all we got. I guess it's still at Delta.
I can't do this on my own. Grab the other side.
Strask, ready or not, we're coming in.
All right, see you soon.
These are really interesting. I want to know why these exist. I want to know why these have selected the things that they've selected. I noticed that they tend to be connected to this shit, which means that maybe the WoW wants me to experience certain things here. The WoW is a very interesting concept to me. It's very much got the existence is pain, so let's do something about it vibe, from what I understand. I just need to explore this. I want to see. I see pretty lights. Little dude! No, he ain't gonna help me. I burned that bridge. Burned that bridge. You might even say it was stunned by my choice. Too soon?
This thing on? Can everyone hear me?
Go ahead, Strom.
Listen up, all members of staff. The art project has caused a lot of arguments the last few months. I'm not going to pretend I understand what the hell Sarang talked about and how his continuity suddenly made sense to kill yourself. For the fucking love of God, or whatever you think is important, don't kill yourself. This place is miserable enough. Don't force your friends to clean up your blood. Rest in peace, all of you. Good?
Beautiful, sir. All right, everyone. Show's over. Get back to work.
We're listening to that again.
This thing on? Can everyone hear me?
Go ahead, Strom.
Listen up, all members of staff. The art project has caused a lot of arguments the last few months. I'm not going to pretend I understand what the hell Sarang talked about and how his continuity suddenly made sense to kill yourself. For the fucking love of God, or whatever you think is important, don't kill yourself. This place is miserable enough. Don't force your friends to clean up your blood. Rest in peace, all of you. Good?
Beautiful, sir. All right, everyone. Show's over. Get back to work.
I hate that. I thought I hated it the first time I listened to it, and that's why I needed to listen to it again. This is the point where I will encourage people, if you would like to see me have a in-depth conversation about suicide, I encourage you to watch my video on YouTube. It's called The Conversation About Suicide. And I go into some, I think it's about 40 minutes long. I go into depth on kind of my perspective on suicide as somebody who worked for 3 years on the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and as a therapist and as somebody who just, as a person, thinks about these things frequently. Like, I'm not actively experiencing suicidal ideation, but it's a concept I think about a lot. One of the sentiments that was not universal but was very commonly expressed to me when I worked on the National Suicide Prevention Hotline was a sense of burdensomeness to others. People who are wrong about suicide often say that suicide is a selfish act. And I'm just going to tell you, you're wrong if you believe that. You are wrong. Suicide is a often selfless act, at least as it is perceived by the person who is engaging in the thought process. Overwhelmingly, one of the things that I would hear people discuss as a reason why they were thinking about ending their life was because they believed that they were massively burdensome to the people around them. And that ending their life would spare not just themselves of the sense of hopelessness and helplessness that they were experiencing, but would also spare other people from having to deal with them. And my troubles, when I talk to people about them or when I'm experiencing them, people have enough that they're worried about, and I'm just adding to the pile. And if you're a person who's ever experienced suicidal ideation, I'm guessing there's probably some part of you that's nodding with me as I say that. So, when people engage with a person who's experiencing suicidal ideation by saying something along the lines of what this guy just said, which is essentially to guilt trip them, which is to say, you know, you're going to burden people by forcing them to find you dead and clean up your mess. How could you do this to other people? It perpetuates that sense of burdensomeness. Is that more likely to get somebody to end their life? Not necessarily. Is it going to help? No. The way that you want to engage with a person who's experiencing suicidal ideation is to be curious about what the ideation is about. Where is it rooted from? What is it? What is suicide a solution to? What is the problem that suicide solves? It is often an overwhelming sense of hopelessness and burdensomeness and pain that you can't figure out how to make go away. So empathy and availability to talk about that and to hear that and to acknowledge that that pain and suffering and hopelessness is leading to suicide as being considered as an option for how to resolve that. A lot of people worry that validation of that is going to get a person to say, all right, you're right, I'm going to do it. No. In fact, it often has the opposite effect. And again, I can say that from experience, having worked for 3 years on the hotline, doing overnight shifts, and talked to countless people who were experiencing ideation to various degrees of severity. That presence and availability and curiosity and empathy goes a long way to helping people feel a sense of connection, and it opens them up oftentimes to try to determine potential means of trying to address whatever it is that's creating the pain and suffering. So this guy making essentially what amounts to a public service announcement that says, don't kill yourself because you're an asshole if you do it because we have to clean up the mess. That is not the kind of messaging you want to have around this. If you're him, it's got to be, hey, we've gotten a sense that a lot of you might be thinking about this and we'd like to understand why. You'd be willing to talk to us about it, we'd like to hopefully maybe address some of the concerns that are leading to people having this experience. Help is available. That's the better messaging. I realize that these are heavy topics. I just want to express my appreciation for all of you being here and engaging in these topics with me. I love the way that games can bring up these types of conversations. And again, if you want more information about kind of how to talk about suicide or anything like that, please go watch that video.
Sarah, are you there? Who is this? Catherine? I'm busy working. Oh, I just wanted to say thank you for what you did. Don't worry about it, but you should stand up for yourself. I mean, Strohmeyer doesn't have that kind of authority. You can just tell him to go fuck himself. Oh, I just don't. I'm not that kind of a person. You can't expect people to fight for you all the time. You're a brilliant person, Kath. You're so smart it makes my head spin, but sometimes you just disappear into yourself. Suddenly it's like talking to a fucking 5-year-old. It's just hard. I can't just be more like that. Everyone would know I'm pretending. It's not too late to win people over. Strasky likes you. I like you. Reed likes you. Strasky likes everybody. Yeah, that's true. Wait, you think Reed likes me? Catherine, a lot of people like you. You just need to open up a little. Be more approachable. Can I get back to work now? I'd rather not be reprimanded twice in one day. Okay. See you back inside. Over and out.
All right, there's probably going to be some splits on what people think about what that person just said to Catherine. Catherine is the one who will determine whether that was helpful to hear or not. I want to focus more on a different concept here. If you've been in therapy before, particularly if you've worked with somebody that engaged in like cognitive behavioral therapy, you may have heard, or maybe even if you haven't been in therapy, you might have heard the term core beliefs. It's an oversimplified way of looking at what some of the more solidified and reinforced narratives of our life are that we continue to perpetuate and draw from. And you got to be really careful with your core beliefs, because core beliefs set a template through which you filter new information. And the best metaphor that I can give for how this works is to think about if you had multiple pairs of sunglasses that had different colors in the lenses. When you put certain glasses on, it washes certain colors out, it highlights others, and it changes others. But your world and how you see it is essentially dictated by those sunglasses. Core beliefs work very similarly. So if Catherine has a core belief that she is unlikable and unlovable, a bit of an oversimplification, but I'm using this for illustrative purposes. When she receives information to the contrary, she is likely to yeah, but it. Where you filter the information that you get through what you believe to be true. Core beliefs have a tendency, people say, no, it's true. I stand by this. So Catherine, if she's locked into the idea, and it's airtight, that she is unlikable, she's a burden, she's unlovable, and she takes that as a given in every kind of scenario, she is not going to synthesize information to the contrary in a way that is going to be useful to her. She might look raw data straight in the face and dismiss it and create a story that rebuts it. And if you're a person like this, whoever it is that Catherine was talking to, who wants to try to cut through that, you do not have as easy of a task ahead of you as you think. When her friend says, just be more approachable, just smile more. These people do like you, they've told me. Not saying that Catherine can't move in a direction of believing it because she might trust this person, but it's going to be really hard for her to do that. And you could hear it in the voice message. You could hear the way that Catherine responded and said, like, you know, no, everybody would know that I'm pretending. If you want to address a core belief, you have to challenge the validity of the core belief. You have to invite into your mind the idea that maybe you're wrong. If you're Catherine, you have to say, when you hear yourself say, I'm unlikable, you have to follow that up and say, what if that's wrong? What if there's more nuance there? What if what I believe about myself is something I perpetuate because it's easier and less anxiety-inducing than inviting in an alternative perspective on this? What would this mean if I was indeed likable? You'd also have to challenge the definition of likable. What does that actually mean, to be likable? Because putting your identity in the hands of other people around you is not particularly great. But what if I was likable? What if I am likable? What if my entire conceptualization of who I am relative to this is not correct or is to be challenged? Then you start to see an invitation of alternative perception of data that comes at you, and you have to slowly start building a case that allows you to generate a more nuanced core belief. The thing that ultimately, I think this gets lost in how core beliefs get taught, both in an educational context and to clients from therapists. The way core beliefs get taught is that, like, you're supposed to just, like, challenge them and change them. The reality is, it's not about necessarily like challenging and changing them. It's about bringing nuance in. It's not about developing a counter narrative. It's about inviting ambiguity into the narrative. What if there are things you do that certain people will find unlikable, but other people may be drawn toward? What if your likability is completely contextually loaded? What if likability as you've defined it is too myopic? Like, there's a lot of things to go in there and challenge, but it requires a huge amount of cognitive work in order to do those gymnastics and engage in those abstractions. But ultimately, you have to decide that you want to change that. And it takes work. Your core beliefs and your narratives don't change just because you want them to. They change because you become an active participant in the alternatives. And that might mean that you have to fake it for a little bit and then start reading data that confirms some of these alternative stories in order for you to build a case that becomes more believable for yourself. But this stuff doesn't get changed over time. Core beliefs develop over a long period of time and become reinforced both by the environment, but eventually in some ways by self-fulfilling prophecy, by you looking at engaging with confirmation bias more than counter narratives. Really, really, really difficult stuff. One of the best realizations that you can ever come to as a human being, in my opinion, is that not everybody's going to like you, and that's fine. So Catherine got some work to do. And it's not Sarah's responsibility to change that for her. Sarah, as her friend, can certainly challenge her narratives. She can certainly give her perception on things. And if she needs to give some tough love and she has that kind of relationship with Catherine to provide that, good for her. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's more work there than just being told be more approachable.
That's everything, right? Thank you, Catherine. Wait. Am I already here?
Oh boy, is this Sarah?
Hello?
Who is that? Mark?
No, we haven't met before.
Is this Mark?
I think we're safe.
Oh, I was so worried something had gone wrong.
What's your name?
Robin Bass. Theta field service technician.
Nice to meet you, Robin. How did you get here?
I got scanned, like the others. And then I killed myself. At least I think so. I can't remember that part.
How does that work? Did dying get you into the Ark?
Wow, you're definitely not from Theta. Let me guess, Omicron? Wasn't sure Catherine would be able to scan you guys. You're lucky. There was a lot of talk about this at Theta. The idea is, when you're activated in the Ark, there's basically two of you, right? One human, one living scan in the Ark. You don't want your copy to survive you. You yourself want to survive on the Ark. If the human you dies before the scan is initiated, or closely after, you yourself would live on in the Ark. Amazing, right?
Oh my God. Okay, I think I understand this. I think this is what I think I understand this, right? So, Catherine, back when we were at Lambda, the idea is that when you make the copy, there's the you that gets copied, and then there's the copy of you. You can't experience the consciousness of both of those simultaneously. You essentially have two separate beings that are predicated from the same consciousness at that moment in time. So if you put a copy of you on the Ark, okay, I'm going to do a visual for this. If this is the copy of me, okay, this can is the copy of me, and this is me. If you take this can and you pop it on the Ark, this me doesn't go with the Ark. This me continues to live on Earth, which is going to get hit by a comet. This me is experiencing its whole level of consciousness and autonomy and believes and has its previous history in the same way that Simon right now has a sense of what his history was. This you wakes up on the Ark similar to the way that Simon woke up in like underwater and thinks that it's you. This thinks that it's this. But this is still around. Okay? So the idea here, I'm assuming, and maybe we'll get more information here, the idea is that if you die by killing yourself in the process of that consciousness being copied or shortly after, you don't have to, this you doesn't have to exist. This you is the one that continues. So it's the idea that this gets transferred into this fully, so you continue on from this point as this instead of this, even though this is the vehicle. So you don't have a split consciousness anymore, only one of you is continued. But how would you actually know? This is the mind-blowing part of this. Is how would you actually know? Because when you die, as far as we know, you lose complete consciousness. So if you kill yourself and you're gone, and then this other version of you wakes up, that other version of you doesn't know that the other vessel died. The version of you that wakes up thinks that it's you, thinks that the last thing that happened was you went to sleep or you sat in a chair in a janky office, and then all of a sudden you were here. So for all we know, Simon, who sat in the chair in Toronto, is dead. But he doesn't have the memory of it, because if his consciousness was downloaded into the chair, his consciousness is still conscious. It didn't die. So he wakes up and it feels like a continuation of where he was. So when that copy of you wakes up on the Ark, like this is freaking mind-blowing shit. Because like you have two versions of your consciousness that are perpetuated here by this split, and neither one of them actually knows what happened with the other one. In the same way that Simon doesn't know what happened to his body in Toronto, the body in Toronto doesn't know what happened to the copy that woke up down here under the water. And so these people that are getting their consciousness transferred to the Ark don't want to necessarily accept the fact that this vessel that's being copied isn't what's going to continue. They have to deal with their own demise, while the copy actually has the better is the better option, because it's not going to have to deal with all of the craziness that's going to happen when the comet hits the Earth. Doesn't have to deal with all the existential dread. It's going to wake up in an Ark, and it's going to be like, whoa, how'd I get here? This place is pretty cool. The scan worked. Oh. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Because the question then becomes, is it worth doing? Like if somebody told you that they were going to copy your consciousness and then they were going to put it in a utopia, but the you that got copied doesn't get to go to the Ark, would you do it? It's wild. It's like having a baby, but the baby's you. It's just holy shit. All right.
Did Catherine put you up to this? Killing yourself?
Catherine Chun? No. I don't think you understand. She just did scans and put them into the Ark. I hope I get to meet her soon so I can apologize. She always got into trouble with Strawmeyer when someone killed themselves.
I think she's okay with it.
Where is everyone? I thought there would be like 40 or 50 people here.
I don't know. I'll let you know if I see anyone. Robin, I'm not sure how to say this.
What?
This is
Yeah?
pretty amazing, right? I mean, the Ark.
Yeah, it's great. Catherine and the guys have really pulled through. They saved us all.
See you later.
Will do.
I'll be going now.
Let me know if you find anyone else.
Wow.
Is this what it's supposed to look like?
Oh my god.
I expected something different.
I'm just gonna say this now. I cannot think of another game or any other piece of media that has ever made me think like this. Man. So she's downloaded into this robot, but she thinks she's on the Ark. She perceives herself as being on the Ark. Whatever that means. And I don't have the ability to share in that perception. I don't know what she sees. And the terrifying reality that I'm having to wrestle with right now is that Carl might have been on the Ark as far as he was concerned. That robot that I stunned in order to get on the Zeppelin may have been on the Ark in whatever way that was conceptualized for it. That they don't see what I see. And the question then becomes, whose perception is more important? Is it mine or is it theirs? And again, this is where it comes to this, like, we all have this bias in the sense that we think that what it is that we perceive is the reality of the situation, and there is some truth to that. But also, like, if this person is consciously moving about perceptively in an area that we don't see, am I any more right than Robin? Right? Like, if I pull that plug, and I appreciate Simon's sensitivity to this. Like, his empathy is growing immensely, because the fact that he was about to say to you, to Robin, you're chilling on the bottom of the ocean wrapped up in wow gobbledygook as a robot. Does that actually serve any purpose other than reaffirming Simon's narrative and reality? And I might argue the answer is no. That's the only purpose that serves. So Simon instead decides to reach into her reality and say, the Ark is pretty great, huh? And that takes, I think, some real humility. Some real humility. Because you have to really dig into the idea that your reality is no more important than somebody else's. And that if you truly want to empathize and reach them, you have to get in there and understand where they're coming from. What they see. How they're orienting themselves to what it is that they're experiencing. I've told this story before, but there was a person who would call regularly on the hotline when I worked on the hotline, who, if off of medication, would call and talk about how unsettling and anxiety provoking it was that there were spiders in their stomach. And you know, you and I might sit and say, well, there's not actually spiders crawling around in that person's stomach. Medical science would dictate there's hydrochloric acid and it would kill the spider and it wouldn't survive and blah, 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 right? And maybe we're right. But it doesn't matter when that person who's calling and on the other end of the phone legitimately perceives that there are spiders in their stomach. It's not your responsibility there to try to convince that person of a different reality. It's your responsibility, particularly if you're in a helping position, to get to know and understand that person's experience. You validate the fear. I don't have to necessarily validate the facts, but I can validate the experience. And it becomes self-serving for me if I want to convince this person that I'm right. What purpose does it serve? If Robin is not saying that she's actively in distress, if she's not saying I'm miserable, I'm dying, I'm in pain, kill me, take me out of here, what reason do I have to go pull that plug? Other than my own engagement with the reality that I see. So I'm not pulling the plug.
Where is everyone? I'm not the only one who got scanned.
Now, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, but you know, she's by. See, again, now you look at this and you say, well, do we put her out of her misery by pulling this plug? She's chilling alone on the Ark as far as she's concerned. I'm potentially the only person here who could put her out of her misery.
It's different though.
What if nobody comes along for years and she's by herself on the Ark? I don't believe that's for me to decide. I really don't. I don't believe that's for me to decide. She's not saying to me, I want out.
I'm just not prepared.
I don't have enough known variables to make that call. That's me playing God.
Maybe it's something I'll get better at.
She's still in the exploration phase of that. The WoW's not going to let her die. Right? I know that. I know what my perspective on immortality is. I don't know what hers is. And I don't have the ability to ask her. And if they had the same informed consent that I had going into this, that's a nightmare. But, man. I'm going to leave her. God, you know what's crazy about this, though, is the WoW is dictating her future, too. Oh, I gotta go with what I have. I gotta go with what I have, which is that she's not asking me to do anything about it. Man. Oh, this game's a trip.
Hello? Anyone there?
I don't love this.
Well, Catherine, we found Theta.
Got that blurry vision, yo. Really hope I don't have to keep running away from monsters. I could do without that element of the game. Pathos 2. Access denied. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Open the door! Little camera going on here. Let me in. By the way, I really appreciate everybody here live on Twitch and folks in the comments on YouTube. Really appreciate y'all not spoiling this stuff for me. It makes this so much more enjoyable. Attention, stand clear. Door opens automatically. Not in my experience. I'm gonna have to break that glass, I bet. Cali air, humidifier, nice. Emergency life support, okay. Oh, wow. We really are in the middle of freaking nowhere. Holy shit. Hey, a stress ball. I could use that.
here? We're here. Okay, great. Time to hijack ourselves a submarine. There will be nothing stopping us when we have the dunbat.
You guys sure have a lot of machines and vehicles down here. What makes this one so special?
It's the only transport that can go into the abyss without cracking like a can of soup.
If this is one of a kind, then how did they get the Ark down the abyss in the first place?
That's a good question. I suppose they did it the hard way and just walked.
Didn't realize that was an option.
I sure hope that means we don't have to
What's
do
it
that.
like inside the Ark? Is it like a movie or virtual reality?
No, of course not. It's, like real life, but slightly better. Pleasant temperature, clean air, good weather.
So people in the Ark just walk around pretending it's the real world?
You don't have to pretend, it's perfectly immersive.
And it can just sustain itself?
Yes. Attached to a probe fueled by solar panels, it could survive for thousands of years.
That's amazing. Just thinking about the Earth being what it is and us setting out to save the final remains of humanity, it's...
Heroic.
At least it feels worth doing.
Here we go. The dunbat. Ah, damn it. I knew it was too good to be true.
What's wrong?
It's quarantined. Hold on. We need a security cipher.
How bad is it?
It's we don't write these things down type of bad.
Maybe someone's still around who can tell us what it is.
Sure. Let's go with that. I'll just unlock the other doors for you so you can explore the station.
Thanks. Can't wait to explore the station.
We need to find someone who knows the cipher. It's the only way to fire up the dunbat. Find someone who knows the security cipher.
Okay. So really the lifespan of the Ark is the lifespan of the power it takes to run it. So it's not infinite. Look, the thing that... man. The thing that doesn't square up for me with this is the development piece of it. Because if you're... Because like... It's like your consciousness is in the Ark. And it's on a chip. And you've been... Your senses perceive you to exist in a certain kind of way. But that means that there's no, like, biological development. Like, you don't have cells replicating themselves. You don't have withering. So you're essentially, like, locked at a certain point of, like, biological development. But then what does that mean for brain development? Like, does the chip possess enough hard drive, RAM, etc., so that when you have novel experiences, you learn from them, right? Like, it's kind of like a fascinating thing. Like, it opens up the conversation of, like, how much hard drive space does your brain actually have? But it's just it's a fascinating idea that, like, because you couldn't have, in order for you to process the novelty of a given moment, you have to have, like, active RAM that's able to cache that. Oh man, it's just the tech side of that is wild. Site status. Theta, all systems operational. Hull, subcoat intact. App 99%. Armor intact. App 84%. Life support, wow. Air, clean, medium. Temp, 13 degrees Celsius. Pressure, 2.102 bar. Last diagnosis, 2104. January 16th. Love to know what day it is now. Map, main level. Black box beacon, level 2. Damn, this is a complicated area.
Downstairs.
Why abandon the gate? And the habitat? That's so strange. I don't like this at all.
Staff, Theta main. Emma Alvaro, astrodynamics expert. Robin Bass, field service technician, deceased. Oh my god. No, she's not. Catherine Chun, Intel systems engineer, missing. Dorian Cronstead, admin supervisor, deceased. Jessica Davis, structural engineer, deceased. Joaquin Defreen, field service technician. Sean Evans, field service technician. Martin Fisher, wrangler, deceased. Keith Forquery, overseer. Matthew Frost, biometrics expert. Biomimetrics expert. Jasper Hill, software coordinator, missing. Nikolai Ivashkin, system architect, missing. Maggie Komarebi, first responder. Guy Conrad, wrangler, deceased. Alice Coster, payload manager. Sarah Lindwall, payload technician, missing. Nadine Masters, medical doctor. Ian Peterson, software engineer, missing. Imogen Reed, mechatronics engineer, missing. Mark Sarang, an intelligence analyst, deceased. Peter Strasky, dispatcher. John Strohmeyer, security operative. Richard Thabo, mechatronics engineer. Heather Wolchek, site service engineer. Guests: Jane Adams, chief factor Upsilon. Marishaka Diviao, wrangler, Lambda. Gavin Finley, FS technician, Upsilon, deceased. Havid Goya, wrangler, Delta. Nathan Grau, captain of Port Lambda, deceased. Vanessa Hart, dispatcher, Lambda. Vigdis Jonsdottir, dispatcher, Upsilon. Chris Josic, Lambda. Astrid Cryer, FS technician, Delta, deceased. Louise Muron, FST, Upsilon, deceased. Baxter Rogers, geotechnical engineer, Upsilon. Ashish Shankar, wrangler, Upsilon. Brandon Wan, wrangler, Delta. Oh man. So Robin is not deceased. Catherine's not missing. Or at least as far as we know. Alright, let's go have some fun. Hey, it's a bathroom. Oh boy. Oh. Alright, walking down the creepy tunnel. Creepy tunnel. Creepy tunnel. Through the ocean. Creepy, 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 creepy. Boy, I don't love this.
Why would they all leave this floor?
I don't get it either. It's like they all just cleared out.
It doesn't exactly look like a fun place to hang out. Ugh. Just clean up a little bit. People made a mess. No! God damn it!
What's so interesting downstairs? Just labs and offices. Maybe the shuttle station.
Should we go check?
Rather not. Got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, me too, Catherine. I don't love hearing drippy drippy. I don't like that there's wow shit everywhere.
Maybe they wanted to keep close to the shuttle station in case something went wrong.
You're really stuck on that one.
I'm just worried about my colleagues.
Oh, what up, Buddha? Can I rub your belly for good luck? Yeah. I'm gonna need it. Oh, there's a mirror. Oh, baby. Holy shit. Wow, that would be so trippy, dude. Simon not even gonna say anything about it? Holy hell. That would be a real trip, man. Woo! Yes, I don't have any need for that. Oh, man. I mean, I guess we heard him say that he's coming to terms with the fact that he's a robot, but man, to have that visually... Fix the lights! Elevator shaft. Think the water's still good? Maybe perhaps some pictures of the Ark and what's in there. Alright. Some playing cards. Look at that. How nice that is. Wow. I don't like this. This is not my, it's not my favorite thing in the world that exists. I'm just gonna keep taking a look around. Nope. WoW doesn't want us going up or down. Alright. Cool. Great. Love it. Thank you. Guy Conrad. Ooh. Maser tool safety, figure 18. Electric hazard, microwave radiation, emitter and battery are hot. Don't look into the emitter. Alright. That schematic doesn't really give me much information right now. Maybe it will later. Dude's got a neat office. More pictures of the Ark. Picture of a car. Wisconsin Beaks. Alright. Conrad, you know, buddy, trash is right here. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. God damn it. Wow, this glass is shit. The glass's fault. It's not my fault. Right. That's better. Okay. Let's creep on pictures of him and his kids. This would be a real trippy experience to like see the world or the arc. Or like, you know, I don't know how many years ahead into the future we went, but like it'd be so weird to see like what would have been future for me be the past. Yeah, it's a wild experience. Oh god, nice and dark in Catherine's office. That's fun.
Hey, that's my room.
You want me to bring something? A souvenir?
No, it's just memories.
Throw your shit away, Catherine. God damn, y'all people are messy. Journal. It's fine, I'll just read your journal in front of you. Don't worry about it. June 6, 2103. Imogen Reed tested a machine today. It was clearly corrupted by WoW, but more importantly, it was assembled in a seemingly primitive way. Like someone had specifically created it for WoW to steal. Interesting. When activated, the machine mimicked the room and Reed along with it. At some point, she was scanned and then loaded as a simulation inside the digital space. The presentation shocked Reed and was quickly terminated. It scares me how much it reminds me of my AR capsule. Oh my god. Oh my god. The ethical nightmare that this presents is unreal. If I'm reading this correctly, I kind of hope I'm not. But if I'm reading this correctly, when it says that at some point she was scanned and then loaded as a simulation inside the digital space, I wonder how many times they ran simulations with actual consciousness uploads. Because as Catherine made it sound like you could do that as many times as you wanted, you just got that consciousness was frozen at that period of time. It would stand to reason that if they wanted the arc to work properly, they would have maybe created some like test arcs. And that they could have just loaded people's consciousness into those things to see how they would respond and then terminate them. And that is freaking wild because you are not uploading a simulation. You're uploading a person. Like that person wakes up in that simulated arc, believing that that's the reality that they're in. Like, the best way to empathize with this chat would be imagine if you fell asleep tonight and then you woke up in the morning and you were in a brand new place. And maybe you expected you were going to potentially be, no, you wouldn't have expected you were going to be in that brand new place. You just wake up in that brand new place, kind of like Simon did when he woke up underwater here. That's what the copy experience is. And meanwhile, you have people outside of the ant farm that are ready to just nuke it if it doesn't do what you want it to do. That is like, if you uploaded, say, 600 people into this test simulation to see whether it could handle that capacity, and then you nuked those 600 people, did you just murder 600 people? If the consciousness copies are the way that they've been described, I could make the argument that the answer is yes. But you're not the one that experiences that consciousness. It's a new person that has your consciousness that gets uploaded into it. Oh my God. June 14th, 2103. After dissecting the vivarium machine that Reed activated, it's clear that WoW copied my capsule project to construct the scene to hold the Reed simulation. It's actually very similar in its construction, except for one point. Where my capsule houses flat people constructed from model neurographs, the vivarium's brain scan lives on. It isn't limited by its content. From the originating brain scan, read emerged. The read inside Vivarium was a perfect copy. Oh my god. June 21st, 2103. I have it. I can save humanity. I can build an artificial reality capsule that can hold every living member of Pathos 2. I can't figure out how it worked with the Vivarium, but I can replicate Wild's scanning technique using the pilot seats. They're already prepared with the type of electromagnetic drums needed. June 22nd, 2103. It was even easier than I thought. Pilot seats are already set to allow the diffraction and high energy needed to capture the scan. I suspect WoW has been using the seat to steal scans from us for a while. I guess that explains the Mockingbirds. The WoW must have stolen scans from people using the pilot seat and used it as a basis for intelligence in the machines. Oh my god. I'm beginning to maybe regret my choice of letting that Robin and the machine live on. July 3rd, 2103. With a surprisingly positive reaction from the team, we've now officially started the ARC project. We are to scan all the people we can find and load them into the capsule. Then we will launch it into space using the space gun. It's nice to think something will live on like that. Is it? You know, at some point, why don't we just, like, let humanity just die? Like, why go to just unbelievable far reaches of the galaxy to preserve humanity at the cost of, like, the ethics of the thing? Like, at some point, it's like humans are so full of themselves that they just can't accept that, like, you know, maybe at some point we're just not meant to be here anymore. July 12th, 2103. Mark Strang killed himself after his scan. He's been suggesting everyone should kill themselves as it would somehow allow them to actually get on the Ark. I'm not sure how that would work. It did trigger a lot of arguments among staff, and apparently it's my fault somehow. Strohmeyer is not happy with me. Hope it will calm down. Oh my freaking god, man. That's Jonestown. It's Jonestown. Like, that's culty shit. I mean, I realize that it's a different context, but there are absolute similarities there. Kill yourself so that you can achieve consciousness of the afterlife that we've constructed. That's literally what that is. That's Jim Jones telling people to drink the freaking Kool-Aid so that they can transcend themselves into whatever it was that they believed they were going to go to. I mean, I could understand if the person desired to kill themselves because they didn't want to have to continue to lead the consciousness in the current environment that they're in. But this idea that you would, like, kill yourself on the off chance that you're going to get transferred to the Ark when there's not necessarily any basis for that being true, holy shit, man. I mean, the wild part about it, I suppose, is that if you kill yourself, your copy doesn't know. Your copy would live on in the Ark believing that the transfer worked. That's the wild part about this entire thing, is that, like, if somehow your copy knew that you intended to do that, the copy in the Ark would assume, with its own consciousness, that killing yourself meant that you got transferred in the same way that Simon believed when he woke up that he was still him. Richard gave me a set of AI templates I haven't seen before. Unfolded one of them to make a new friend for Capsule Catherine and her gang of legacies. New way to simulate turbulence makes the weather system so much better. Implemented Reed, didn't go well. New try with Reed. Reed won't play nicely with the others. She is too real. Oh boy. Catherine? Love a little context on what I just read, Catherine. What is this?
Your teddy bear could use some repairs.
Toby always breaks. He's top heavy, so he keeps falling over.
All right, Toby. Danger, restricted area. I would also just like to point out, these locks are from the outside. So, these are to lock people in, not to keep them out. That's not spooky at all. Okay, good. Yeah, buttholes. They're everywhere. Tell me what the buttholes are. Dear friends, when you read this, I will have entered the Ark. As I've explained, this is accomplished by ceasing to live as your scan is being completed. To not frighten Catherine, I will do this in secret by folding cyanide salts into chewing gum. Hold on, I gotta just do this. And placing it in my mouth before seeing her. When I hear her announce completion, I will bite down quickly, causing my own demise. When you discover the truth behind my death, know there is no tragedy to mourn, for I am victorious. I advise you all to do the same and join me inside the Ark. Sincerely, Mark Saran. Wow, man, that's... jeez. The nature of identity. Questions about the self. Who are you? What does it mean to be human? Does your body or your surroundings confine or define you? All very difficult ideas to approach without having your questions be invalidated by the practical or mystified by the spiritually minded. In this book, Pavlina Martinu, professor of philosophy at the Charles University in Prague, guides you through the history of great thinkers and what they have to say about identity. Or you could just watch SOMA sessions with a therapist. You can do that too, you know? Your boy DrMick's got you covered. That brain. Give me your brain. Ah, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Get the hell out of here. Yikes! I don't love this room. Mostly because it's just so messy. Alright, it's enough. We're all dying anyway. I'm all in. I put my faith in Sarang and the continuity. My God, dude. But then people like tell their kids to kill themselves. Like, how old did you have to be to go to the Ark? Like, there's just so many questions, man. Ugh. Wow. That's a hell of a way to go. I tell you what, man. This project asked a lot of complicated questions that people didn't have easy answers to. And I have to imagine that as people were going about their business and creating this, they were absolutely experiencing existential dread. Like, there's no way that you don't get wrapped up in the philosophy of it all. I think you just, in order to be involved in this project, you would have to. But that kind of ambiguity is really contaminating for the human brain. We don't do well with that. And if Mark Sarang or whomever started the whole idea of continuity created certainty, created an idea that people could really latch onto and focus their hope into, you'd go for it. So if he believes this strongly, even against the data that Catherine seems to have had in that little notepad that we read, that you don't have to deal with the ambiguity and the stress of this hard decision. All you have to do is end your life and then you'll be in the Ark. You absolutely could get people to follow you into the dark on that. Absolutely. Any of us would be susceptible to that. Because, I mean, as I'm sure some of you have gathered by just watching me play this, you see, I mean, there are real levels of this game that are very distressing. When you really think about all of this, it is very distressing. Because this really does call us to ask questions about the nature of our existence. And if we could make certain choices about our consciousness, like, what would we do? But it opens up so much uncertainty and like existential dread, stuff that we just don't have answers to. And that's not comfortable to sit with. So if this guy comes along and has this narrative that's very helpful for people to wrap into, and they have no data to suggest that he's wrong, if you have the right amount of charisma, you tell a straight enough story, you appeal to the logic of the people around you, and you know your audience, any one of us would be susceptible to this. Is he wrong to start convincing the others? It's ambiguous. I mean, I don't know that you could say yes or no to that, because when you get cult leaders, yes. Like cults, I could go so far as to say religion as well, but really, if you want to take any kind of ideological doctrine, I mean, you could throw astrology and all that bullshit into this too. Personality, all of that. We like to have concrete understanding of our world. And there's this really fine line, again, to bring this full circle to a conversation we had earlier in this stream about accountability. There's a really fine line on this, because if you're a person in a position of power who possesses charisma and the ability to influence others in a particular type of way, are you responsible for wielding that power responsibly? Yes. I think any of us would agree that that is absolutely the case. If you are a person who is susceptible to certain narratives, are you also responsible for protecting yourself from the influence of people who are charismatic and seem to have the answers? Also, yes. And where this gets really blurry is that there are times where we perceive certain people to know more about what they're talking about than others. Or perhaps people appeal to our certain emotional experiences around things, which means we're more likely to privilege what it is that they have to offer. So then it really comes down to what's the agenda of the influencer. Because if Mark Saram truly believes that this is the way, if he absolutely believes this is the best possible way and that you're going to get into the ark by doing this, and that your consciousness is going to transfer, it stands to reason that he would want other people to know that. These other people don't have enough information to know whether or not he is correct. And so there's the do your research aspect of this. But if you don't have that research available to you, you have to make a decision. Do you trust Mark? Or do you trust your own sensibilities? Or do they align? What's the actual data here? And if you're restricted from having that access to data, then you're going to have to work with what's been appealing to your emotions. And this is how people can influence the masses in such profound ways. We're all susceptible to influence if it appeals to our rationality and our emotional experience in a certain kind of way. Every single one of us. Nobody's impervious to this stuff. Everybody with the right set of circumstances can be inducted into a cult. We've seen that, particularly in the United States over the past 6 years at the time of this filming. And it's wild to watch. I would rather not, Tenosis. We're going to find out what's in Martin Fisher's office in part 5. Friends, thank you so much for taking the time to watch part 4 of SOMA with a Therapist. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope that you enjoyed our conversations tonight. Shit's wild. It produces so many amazing conversations. I am loving every second of this playthrough, and I hope you are too. Please take a second to like the video if you haven't already. Be a subscriber to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and follow those links down below, and leave a comment if you please. If you're waiting for the next one to come out, I'll get it out as soon as I can. If you're binging, I'll see you in the next episode. Appreciate you. See you in part 5.